We do want to begin with Brittney Griner. We've got an update on really horrific conditions she is enduring right now in a penal colony in Russia. Here's what we've learned. As I said, horrifying conditions now. The basketball star in that Russian prison. It includes her treatment, homophobia, racism, and 16-hour work days. It is just incredible to think about where she is and how long she's been there. According to the nation's Dave Zirin, prisoners in Mordovia, where Griner was taken earlier this month, are barely treated like human beings. He also explained to TMZ, bigotry is commonplace, medical care nearly non-existent. Inmates expected to sew the uniforms for police and guards. In fact, it's unclear if Brittney Griner, she's 6'8", will even have a bed that will fit her frame. It is just incredible to think about what she is going through right now. After being detained in 2012, a musician, according to Zirin, she described the country as hell, where beatings and torture are frequent. So how is she doing? Here's what her camp is saying. They've insisted the WNBA star is trying to remain brave in the face of it all, saying in a statement following her move to Mordovia earlier this month that Brittney is doing as well as could be expected, despite the fact she is alone and now nearing her 9th month in detention, separated from her loved ones. Her reps go on to say she is trying to stay strong. Griner has been detained in Russia since February after she was accused of bringing hashish oil in her luggage to Moscow. In August, she was sentenced to 9 years in prison. An appeal of that sentence was denied last month. Yesterday, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby noted negotiations with Russia to free imprisoned Americans Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan are still underway, and the administration is going to stay committed, he says, to that effort. Mayor, it's extraordinary to think about how long Brittney Griner has been, we'll call it captivity. These were trumped up charges, many believe, and she's being held illegally, but that's not gonna stop the Putin regime, as I'll call him. What say you about how we keep the faith and what efforts should be done to bring her home?
Yeah, I think it's important that we start the show off with talking about Brittney as often as possible, not just this show. We do it all the time on networks that are progressive like TYT, because we see mainstream media and we know they're so comfortable forgetting about Black lives at home. So imagine what happens when you're off in a foreign land as a political prisoner like Brittney is. So I think it's important that we do that and we name that first. Also, it is absolutely horrendous. I remember seeing a picture early on when she was locked up of her body hanging off of the bed they had her in. It was so small. So we already know that the conditions are gonna be insufferable for Brittney. I do applaud the White House and the administration for continuing to try to fight. We did hear from Rude that we actually have a real serious proposal, another proposal with alternatives to bring Brittney home. This was said yesterday or so, I think. And we're just waiting for the Federation, the Russian Federation, to take this serious. But I think Putin understands where he is in the world right now. His standing is lower than it has been in the past because of his attack and his war on Ukraine. And he's using Brittney's life away from her family in captivity as a political prisoner to be as a negotiating chip, as a pawn on a chessboard. Unfortunate. And I think we as people of color, Black people, progressive, and people who love humans must continue to sound the alarm about this.
Yeah, I often think though, as a person of color and knowing what Putin knows about treatment of Black people in America, of minorities in America, if he values her enough, and if he believes America values her enough to feel like he needs to do anything right here.
Yeah, you and I both know we're too smart to bet on anything about Putin doing something right. Putin will do what he thinks is advantageous for himself and his continued power in Russia and the Federation. But what we do know though is he's running out of options as it pertains to being taken serious on the world stage as he continues to commit human rights violations in Ukraine And I think that will come to a point where he has to turn over Brittney. And this, at least when you ask, how do we keep the faith? This is where I'm keeping my faith, that he's running out of options to be taken seriously. So Brittney may be an option that will get her, that may be a way for her to get home.
Yeah, administration, that's one thing, but do you think the players, we heard LeBron, others speaking out quite a bit when she was first arrested, kept inside a jail, awaiting trial. Really only the former basketball star Dawn Staley, who's superstar coach now too, I see every day she's putting it out there on her social media, but that's one person. I'm sure I'm missing others. Are players doing enough? Other star athletes, other notable celebrities doing enough, or 9 months later have many, kind of put her in the back of their minds?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with our 24-hour news cycle when we spend so much time entertaining and not educating. This is why TYT is so important, because we spend so much time on this channel telling people what's important. And Brittney Griner's life should not be put on the back burner. I think, athletes will athlete, you know what I'm saying? And while that's not funny, it is absolutely true. We're thinking about, if you consider the NBA, a couple years ago, nearly 70+% of them weren't even registered to vote. So expecting them to keep a sustained movement around Brittney Griner might be a bit too much to ask. But what I will say, it is people like yourself, Sister Reed, myself, and others to make sure that we don't forget this sister and let folk know that she is extremely vulnerable, not just because of her 6'8" stature, not just because she's a black woman, but because she's a black woman, but also because she's homophobic, and also because because she's LGBTQI, but also because Putin is a terrorist and he will do anything to use her as a chip.
Yeah, it really is something that's got to be kept on the front page, as we say in this industry.